This is my last sermon on... Oh, Jeff, you had to do that, didn't you? Okay, well, if that's all right. If you want it, that's fine. No. But this is my last message on the parables. We've been doing this on and off since January of 2015, almost probably 2.5 years. But, of course, we've been doing the Old Testament with it. And then on special days, we do other messages. But this one, I would say, has to rank in the top 5. I've done 41 messages on the parables, and this one has to rank in the top 5. And by the way, if I remember next week, what I'll do is I'll have out here on the information table, I will try to remember to generate the 4-page little booklet I have where it takes every single parable and it gives you the main lesson from all the parables. Okay, I'll try to get that out there. I might not have all of the parables in there, but I'll have most of them. I'll probably have at least 3/4 of them. But anyway, I'll try to do that and put that out there for you, just so you could go back and have that in your Bible. You might be reading one of them and say, oh, I forgot what Pastor Bob talked about in March of 2015. And then you could look at, oh, yeah, I remember that. No, I don't. But anyway, all right, now a little context. Matthew 7 is toward the end of our Lord's famous sermon. He's on the mountainside, the Sermon on the Mount. Matthew 5, Matthew 6, Matthew 7. Okay? Now, I've taught you before, don't forget, we got one book in the Bible that tells us how to know that we have eternal life. One book in the Bible I should say it this way, that is specifically written so that you may know that you have eternal life. And that would be the Gospel of John. Okay, the Gospel of John. So the other Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, those 3 are written to people who have already come to faith. And don't forget, some people say Mark could have been written as early as 40 A.D., just 7 years after Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. Some say later. But within 20 years or so, 30 years, the synoptics are written after Jesus' death. There's a lot of Christians now. They need good direction. And so God inspires these human vessels to share his revelation. And then, of course, John may be as late as 95 A.D., like Revelation was late. But John could be, it's really hard to know. But let me just say this, liberals want to put him off as late as possible. They want him to be way over here on the timeline. Why? Well, because if they're really, really close, what's better? A biography written about somebody 5 years after they die or 65 years after they die? Well, the one that's closer. But of course, the liberals, they want to be pushing it, and they want to push it way late because it suits their purposes. But anyway, Matthew 7, he's on the mountaintop and mountainside. And Jesus has just finished warning about false teachers. He's just finished warning his people to be on the lookout. Beware of false prophets. They're wolves in sheep's clothing. What does that mean? On the outside, you couldn't tell them apart from a Christian leader, a Christian pastor, a Christian teacher. They look Christian, and so on and so forth on the outside. But he said, you'll know them by their fruits. And what does Jesus define as fruits? Well, Jesus in the Gospels defined fruit as what comes out of their mouth. And so it's talking about the bad teaching. It can't be talking about their behavior, because if you watch the guys on television, like, these false teachers on television, they're wearing suits and ties and fancy clothes. Okay, so outwardly they're lifting their hands and so on and so forth. They seem to look like Christians. But you start listening to what they're saying about eternal life, about Jesus, about the virgin birth, about the resurrection from the dead. Wow. It doesn't comport. It doesn't fit. What's going on there? Okay, well, that's what Jesus is warning about. So he's just warned about the false teachers, and now he's putting like the cherry on top of the ice cream. All right, he's putting the final touches on this long message, 5, 6, and 7 of Matthew. And here's what he says in verse 24. Okay, let's see, Robert, am I going to get this, or do you want to do it? I'll just let you do it. That's fine, since it's not on here. Okay, so Matthew 7:24. Therefore. Now this, therefore, since it's at the very end of the sermon, goes all the way back. It's just like at the end of my sermons, I'm going to say, okay, let me sum it up. I'm not just talking about point number 3. I'm talking about point 1, point 2, and 3. I'm talking about my whole sermon at the end. Same thing here. Therefore, whoever hears these sayings of mine, these sayings is Matthew 5, 6, and 7. It's the whole tamale. And of course, we could add on to that, since Jesus' word starts in Genesis and goes all the way through Revelation. We can add to that the whole Bible, these sayings of mine. But specifically here, since he's given a sermon, he's saying, hey, whoever hears what I've just taught you on this mountaintop and does them. By the way, our memory verse this week is this: but be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. From James chapter 2. Be doers, or James 1. Be doers of the word and not hearers only. See, Jesus said, whoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him to a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. But everyone who hears these sayings of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain descended, the floods came. I know Texans don't know anything about this. And the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it fell. And great was its fall. End of sermon. And then Matthew says, and so it was, when Jesus had ended these sayings, that the people were astonished at his teaching. For he taught them as one having authority, and not like the scribes. That's another word for rabbis. And not like the rabbis. He taught them as one having authority, and I'm going to explain to you what that means. What do you mean like the scribes? What would that kind of teaching be like? I'll talk to you about that later. Well, let me give you an intro here. Up here, Robert's going to put this building up. It's the biggest building in the world, not the one on the far right, but the one just to the left of that, which is 2,717 feet. Now, just to show you how tall those two buildings are, the one is finished, and then the one to the far right is going to be finished in 2020. Okay? But look at the Sears Tower, or it's called the Willis Tower now. It's the one right in the very middle. That one towers over Chicago at 110 stories. But the one near, not the one on the far right, but the one right next to it at 2717, that one is over almost 200 stories. Wow. Wow. That's really, that's more than a half a mile tall. And that one is called the Burj Khalifa. It's in Dubai. Remember little Mel that used to be with us here at the church? Mel, the real name was Melchizedek, but the little guy from India, he lives in Dubai, so he sees this all the time. But anyway, it's 2,717 feet, over 195 stories, but that one on the far right that's being built not too far away is called the Jeddah Tower. Not Jedi, but the Jeddah Tower. It's going to be 3,300 feet, 3,306 when it's finished. Wow. That thing's that's over a half a mile tall. And it says it'll be completed in 2020. Now, in reference to the construction of the world's current tallest building, the Burj Khalifa there, 2717, this is what Wikipedia says. The consistency, there's a real photo of it. The consistency of the concrete on the project was essential. The consistency of the concrete on that project, the foundation, was essential. It was difficult to create a concrete that could withstand the thousands of tons bearing down on it, and also withstand Persian Gulf temperatures that could reach 122 degrees. To combat this problem, the concrete was not poured during the day. Isn't that interesting? They wouldn't do it during the day. Instead, ice was added to the mixture, and it was poured at night when it is cooler and the humidity is higher. A cooler concrete mixture cures evenly throughout and therefore is less likely to set too quickly and crack. Any significant cracks could have put the whole project in jeopardy. Let me repeat that. Any significant cracks could have put the whole project in jeopardy. They had to get the foundation right. And as you can see, trying to build a 2,700-foot building using normal methods, the ones that everybody know about, that they wouldn't have worked. It would have put the whole project in jeopardy. And what many would consider Jesus' magnum opus of parables, this last parable, in this, Jesus is warning everyone who hears them that if you miss the message of this final parable, if you miss the message of this magnum opus, maybe his greatest parable, you might put your life in jeopardy. You might jeopardize your entire life. Anybody that misses this message of this parable is going to be in trouble on planet Earth. And that's the title that I've given my message today. The title that I've given this message is this: How Believers Put Their Lives in Jeopardy. I didn't say unbelievers, though they put their lives in jeopardy as well, but how believers. Jesus is talking to God's people. This is in the Synoptic Gospels. This is in, and by the way, synoptic, same view, optics, same eyes. See, Matthew, Mark, and Luke all are kind of talking about the same thing. John, eternal life. He's not part of the synoptics. So, Jesus is talking to you and I as believers, and he's saying, listen, if you don't catch what this parable is saying, you might find yourself in jeopardy. And by the way, notice that we've got over there on the left the sand, over on the right the stone, the rock, and in the middle the storms. We're going to come back to those throughout this sermon. So, all right, let's do this. Let's take a moment and pray and ask God to open our eyes. All right, let's bow our heads. Father, we just pray that you'll use this in all of our lives. Let it make an impact on all of us, Lord. And Jesus, help us to, because of today's message, help us to come out with a deeper desire to be in your word and to understand it and to live it. Not to be hearers of the word only, but doers of the word. And we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. I'm 56 years old, and when my dad was 56 years old, he had had to have a quadruple bypass. Robert, can you put that next slide up there, please? He had, since he was around 18 or so, maybe even like as early as 16, he had smoked 20 non-filtered cigarettes a day for almost 40 years. Okay? So he's a teenager, and now he's 56. And these cigarettes didn't have filters. They were the Chesterfield without, he didn't want the filters. And anyway, he had a heart attack, and of course that was also because of the way that he ate all those years, as in addition to the cigarette smoking. But when he had that heart attack, he was, in fact, he was driving. He drove from Indiana across the Illinois border to South Chicago to where he worked, and he was on the way to work, and he had the heart attack while he was driving. And so thankfully he wasn't going like 60 miles an hour and just collapse and go off the road. But he felt that he was having the heart attack, and he pulled over, and then he just basically drove like a turtle. After having this heart attack, he knew something was wrong, and he drove either to a hospital or drove home. But anyway, that scared him to death. That scared my dad to death. He had been smoking all those years and all that, and all of a sudden he quit cold turkey. He never smoked again. He was scared that he would have perished, he would have died, and so he decided, hey, no more with the cigarette smoking. That's got to end right now. And so for the final 15 years of his life, he added 15 more years on his life. He lived to be 71. And of course, he didn't die because his body was, he died because of Alzheimer's. It wasn't because of smoking. He didn't get lung cancer or have a heart attack. He died at the age of 71 because Alzheimer's. He got it when he was like 66 and had it for 5 years, and he had an aggressive form. The last year, he couldn't even talk to us. He was just like a vegetable. My mom cared for him right up to the day he died. I went to see him. I remember this clearly because I went to see him the week before he passed away, and I knew I was saying my last goodbyes to him. I said goodbye, flew back to Dallas on Friday, was standing here at the front of this section. We were having our first Christmas music practice. I don't know how I got conned into being the leader of the choir that year, but anyway, it was 1999, and I was up here, and the reason I say I got conned into it is because I have no idea what I was doing. I was up there like, okay, I can't read music, but I'm leading the choir. Okay, so anyway, I'm down here, and it ended up being a great thing, but it was lucky. It was God intervened somehow. But anyway, I was standing down here, and my cell phone rang. And I stepped in the hallway, and my sister Elaine said, Bob, Dad's gone. And I said, okay, I'll call you back. I'm right in the middle of a choir practice. And so, anyway, but my dad lived 15 years after that. I want to read to you something about a medical study that was done in 2006. It's getting kind of old. They have new ones by now. But a 2006 medical study reveals just how difficult it is for people to change. Listen to this. Roughly 600,000 people have heart attack and bypasses a year in America. 600,000 people have bypass surgery. These people are told after their bypasses that they must change their lifestyle. Their heart bypass is a temporary fix. They must change their diet. They must quit smoking and drinking. They must exercise and reduce stress. In essence, the doctors say, change or die. Now, you would think a near-death experience would forever grab the attention of patients, kind of like it did with my dad. You would think that they would vote for a change. They would say, man, I'm all for this. I'm voting to change my diet, to change my lifestyle. You would think that the argument for change is so compelling, right, that they would make the appropriate lifestyle changes. Sadly, that is not the case. Robert, put that figure up there. Look at this. 90% of heart patients do not change. 90% of heart patients do not change. Study after study indicates that 2 years after heart surgery, the patients have not altered their behavior. Instead of making changes for life, they in essence choose premature death. Premature death. Now that we've looked at that lesson, that little story there about the medical study from 2006, one of the lessons that we learn from this last parable is that Jesus is dead serious about you and I doing life correctly. What Jesus is going to show us is that there is a really, really bad way of doing life on planet Earth and a really, really great way of doing that, okay? He knows the kind of lifestyle that brings life and health and peace and joy. But Jesus not only knows the lifestyle that brings those, Jesus also knows the lifestyle that brings pain and misery and suffering and bad health and you name it, okay? Regret, depression, death, guilt. And that's why he says in this verse here, this verse that we started our parable with, whoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken or I'll compare that person who hears me and obeys me. Hears me and obeys me. I'm going to compare that person to a wise man, okay? To a wise man. You remember Kung Fu back in the 70s?
Grasshopper, when you can snatch the pebble from my hand, it will be time for you to leave. It is time for you to leave.
Because he snatched it out of the wise man's hand. So, you know what? That poor guy, he acted as a wise man, as Kung Fu, David Carradine, but guess what? He didn't listen to Jesus, and they found him hung, committed suicide. He hanged himself. Had all the money in the world, fame, didn't listen to Jesus. He says, I'm going to liken a person who hears me and obeys me to a wise man. What kind of wise man? A wise man not like Kung Fu, but a wise man who builds his life, builds his behavior, builds his thoughts, builds how he treats other people. By the way, I was thinking about this. I'm reading the Old Testament this week, and I'm reading about Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. You know what? They were all liars. They were all telling lies. And guess what? It comes back to bite them. It's clear. You're reading it. You go, wow, they did this and this happened. They lied here and this happened. And you know what it reminded me of, Loretta? It reminded me of whatever a person sows, that which will you also reap. So you know why the reason you want to listen to Jesus? Because the more you don't listen to Jesus, the more that you're going to reap the stupid and evil decisions that you make. You say, well, I'm just going to treat this person this way. All right, get ready. It's coming back to you. Get ready. You want to go ahead and put this person down or nail him to the wall or gossip about him, guess what? Jesus says whatever you sow, you're gonna harvest. You can't plant corn and expect wheat to grow, and you can't plant sin and expect joy and good things to grow. You plant evil, you're going to reap a pile of garbage. So let me just tell you, that's what God spoke to me this week about when I was reading His Word. Hey, listen, be careful about how you think. Be careful about how you live. Be careful about how you say. Why? Because it'll come back to bite you, Bob. It came back and bit Abraham, it bit Isaac, and it bit Jacob. Now, they were blessed to God, but you know what? God put that in there and said, save man, save man, save man, boom, boom, boom. They had to pay a price for not listening to this. Building their house on the rock of God's Word. They had to pay a price. They did it their way. You know what? Don't tell them you're my wife. You're so beautiful, they'll steal you from me. Tell them you're my sister. Survey said, bad. Bad. They nearly lost their lives. Abraham and Sarah. So, it says here, like a wise man, he built his house on the rock, and when the rains descended and the floods came and the winds blew, what is that? Those are the bad times in life. Storms are the bad times in life. When the bad times in life come, it says this, it beat on the house that the wise person was building, beat it, smacked it, but it did not fall because it was founded on the rock. Okay, lesson number 1. 3 main lessons, very simple. Lesson 1, next slide please. The wise person builds on the right foundation. The wise person builds on the right foundation. Listen, if you're going to spend $250,000 on a house, are you going to build that house on balsa wood? You're going to build... No. You're not going to do that. You're not going to be so dumb to do that. You're going to make sure it's done right. Hey, listen, you know what happened when Kelly and I built that house in 2000? Okay, her dad gave us a really nice present so that we could get into a really nice house and didn't pay for all of it. We ended up getting a 20-year loan and so on and so forth, But all that to say is he helped us get some money down on it, right? Guess what? After about a year living in there, we started noticing the stuff between the bricks. I could take my finger and go like this, and I'd put a hole, just like this, right through the grout. So I call Standard Pacific. Hello, Standard Pacific, we got a problem. Okay, they come over. I said, look at this. and it just, the grout just fell like sand on the ground. And he said, okay, what we'll do is we'll spray it. We'll spray the brick and seal it. And I said, oh, no, I don't think so. I said, I think you'll take every brick off this 2-story house and put the correct cement between the bricks. I asked him, how long will the spray last? 10, 15 years. No, you're going to take all the brick off. See, because I had a warranty. And if they didn't do the job right, they paid a price. See, you know what? The guy that they subcontracted, he was a crook, and they hired a crook, and he didn't put enough cement mix because it costs more to put cement mix in with the sand. So he put just a little bit of cement mix, just enough to hold those things on there, and then it came back to bite Sandra Pacific. Of course, if he goes after that guy, who knows where that guy is now? Probably don't even know his real name. So what I'm saying is, listen, we need to build on the rock of God's Word. Don't go to your friends and get their opinions, especially friends that are worldly. Don't go to them and say, hey, can you help? I really need to know what to do in this situation. No, we've already got the rock of God's Word. So if you don't know what the Word says, go to Bill Wade, go to Jim Cook, go to Robert Serrell, go to Jeff Murray, go to any of our elders and ask them, or come to me and ask me. And you know what? We'll open the rock of God's Word and we'll show you what God says to do about that. You know, a neighbor came over. She just got her degree. I think she's in her 40s probably. She got her degree in counseling, and her boys came over and helped me carry some bags of mulch. I was putting some mulch, or new mulch. We needed it. And so they helped me carry the bags to where we were going to spread the mulch. And she came over, and we were talking, and she told me about 3 married couples that she's interacting with, and she was talking to me about it and the problems in these marriages, and she just basically said, can't see the forest for the trees. Try to help them. Try to say, hey, here's where you want to build on. No, they're all saying the grass is greener on the other side. I said to her, oh yeah, right. Your character is deficient. You can't get along here. So now you go over here and you have this little 10-day honeymoon where each of you are saying, oh, I love you, and I love you too, and I love you. But then after that's passed away, after the honeymoon's over 10 days later, now the same guy that couldn't make the marriage work here is living with a new person, and he still can't make the marriage work. He doesn't know how to make it work. He couldn't make it here. Why, if he jumped over the fence and came into this marriage, is he going to make it? You get what I'm saying? Okay. So what I'm saying is, start off with the right foundation. The wise person builds on God's Word, okay? Not on okay. Jesus just talked about false teachers. Don't build it on false teaching. You know what? I'm really leery about watching people on TV unless it's people like Charles Stanley, Andy Stanley, David Jeremiah, okay? Don't get these guys in there that they have 10 people and they go like this. And they're all falling backwards on the stage, and he's pushing all these people and they're falling. I feel like Steve Harvey now. You know those faces he makes? You know, Steve Harvey had that one. He says, okay, I need a name that begins with the letter H. Jose. And Steve Harvey's sitting there. You know, because it's just crazy. You know, he's just like, Jose, really? Starts with the letter H? Okay. By the way, it starts with J. Okay, no. You're all out there. Okay, no, you got it. I know you got it. Okay, so anyway, that guy didn't get it. But anyway, all that to say is this. There's so many places you could go for advice. Go to the right source. Go to God's Word. Go to God's man. Go to the ones that you know. You see it. You know? Hey, Pastor Bob and Kelly, they got 2 children. One of them's a speech pathologist, and the next one is a occupational therapist. They might know something about raising children. Maybe I should think about what they're telling me. No, I'm going to watch Oprah. Okay, you get the idea. Man, let's do what Jesus said to do. Be a wise person. Build on the rock. Okay. Now, this next verse, I want to put this up there. You know what? this verse, the world is passing away. And that, of course, the world, the cosmos in Greek, the cosmos, the world system, the system that's against God, hates God. That is, everybody, it's slowly but surely passing away. Now, to us, it looks like it's growing and getting bigger. God says, because we're hurtling toward the return of Jesus. And that is slowly but... Wait, you know what it's doing, everybody? Listen to me. It's self-destructing. It's self-destructing. Now, the hatred and everything is boiled to a point. And listen, doing things the way the world, the flesh, and the devil tells you to do them, it's causing chaos, destruction. Everything's falling apart. Okay? Hey, listen, everybody. Crazy. Those of you that are older, that you remember sending your kids off to school in the 50s or the 60s. And you think, wow, it's been during my lifetime I saw where kids were sitting behind desks and had their hands folded and they prayed before they started class, and they were good kids and they respected authority and they sat there and did what was right, whether they were Christians or non-Christians or Buddhists or you name it. They had character, these little kids. But now it's insanity. They're beating up the teachers, they're cussing them, they're dropping F-bombs on them and smacking them around, kicking them in school. Listen, that's happened during our lifetime. You don't think this earthly cosmos, the world, is passing away? It's going down. But Jesus says, or John, who wrote the Gospel of John, says, the person who does the will of God abides forever. What do you say? What do you mean, Pastor Bob? I mean, this is what John means. He means this. You live according to this world, your life is going to collapse in this life, and it's going to collapse in eternity. You live according to God's word in this life, your life has an eternal quality. Your life will abide forever. Your life will have eternal significance. Wow, what do you want? Do you want to have a legacy of collapse and chaos and disaster, or do you want to have a legacy that lives and remains? It means, abides means remains forever. Wow, that's what I want. I want the second one. Just this morning in prayer, I was up early praying, and I said, Lord, I say this all the time to the Lord, Lord, I want to get the biggest bang for your buck that I can get. Lord, I want, if there's one guy that comes back with 1 mina and one guy comes back with 5 minas, I want to be the guy that brings back 10 minas to you. You gave him 1 to invest, and you got 10 back. Man, I pray that. We ought to all pray that. We ought to all be praying, God, I don't want to just be average or above average. I don't want to be just mediocre. I want to get the greatest return on your investment in me. So pray. Ask God so that you can do amazing. Hey, listen, I got done with my classes. I jumped on a plane. Robert Jeffress from First Baptist is on the same plane. It was the same thing true back in June as well. We're both on the same plane coming back on Friday afternoon from Lynchburg, and he and I got off that plane, and they're always late, so he and I, 2 old guys, we're running all the way to gate B12, all the way, 12 minutes straight. 2 guys, we should have both had heart attacks. But anyway, we're running like crazy. I'm going, this is getting old. He's like, yeah. And so we're running like crazy men. I mean, listen, and it's crowded. Man, I'm dodging around people, man. They started saying, OJ, oh, no, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I'm going around them, man. Anyway. But we get there, and man, they're about to shut the door on us. But anyway, all that to say is I got on that plane, and after my heart stopped beating out of my chest, I introduced myself to the guy sitting next to me, and I had an hour. He was an IT specialist. I'm an IT specialist, information technologies, computer geek, okay? And man, I said, okay, open door right here. I told him, hey, I'm a pastor. I said, I do just a little IT work on the side, but I said, listen, I got to share some things. And I told him about intelligent design, because he's from Seattle. That's no man's land up there. And I told him about the fine-tuning of the universe for an hour, and he's listening to me. He's asking questions. Man, we've got all kinds of opportunities all around us, and we should take advantage of those, all right? Okay, that's number 1. The wise person builds on the rock. I want to tell you a short story. And I get that next slide up there. I think it's the one with the old pastor, yeah. The retired pastor. Penn Patterson told the story about a retired pastor who began noticing that his former congregation was sliding away. He's retired. He's not the pastor anymore. But his old churches, they're sliding away from God's word. The pastor found out about what was going on, and he said, you know what, it's my fault. It's my fault. He said, I did poorly as a pastor. And this is what he stated in 2 sentences about his great failure as a pastor. Robert, can you put that quote up there? I always told people what to believe, or what to believe, you could say. But my great mistake is that I never clearly taught my people what not to believe. And that's what leads us to this next point. This leads us into our next lesson. Sure, I got to tell you, build your house on a rock. Pray. Be zealous for God. Don't do things that are going to come back and bite you, because God said whatever you sow in this life, you're going to reap it. You don't want people gossiping about you? Don't you gossip. You don't want people, so on and so forth. If you want to have money to make ends meet, then don't rob God. Okay, you get the idea. Okay, by the way, I need to preach on giving again. Okay, everybody raise your hand. You want me to preach on? Okay, all right. So anyway, he didn't tell them what not to do, but Jesus does. Jesus tells in Matthew 7:24-29 what to do and what not to do. Let's look at it. But everyone who hears these sayings of mine and does not do them. Now, what kind of ignoramus do you need to be to listen to Jesus and be sitting there saying, nah. Okay, these people got to see him in person. Whoever hears these sayings of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain descended, the floods came, the winds blew and beat on that house. Same problems, same crises. And it fell, and great was its fall. Whoa. The last words of his sermon, and great was its fall. Jesus isn't talking about lost people, folks, though this can apply to lost people. Jesus is talking to you and I. There are just believers. They've gotten their free, absolutely free ticket, like Willy Wonka, the golden ticket. This is the quintessential golden ticket. They're getting into the kingdom absolutely free. By the way, this is not in my sermon notes, but this week at class, things were brought up, and there's a lot of guys that are at the opposite end of the totem pole on the grace of God in my class. They're over here thinking they've got to kind of earn it to get in. They say I've got to persevere to the end to make sure I'm saved. Okay, but the teacher gave me 20 minutes and let me teach on Romans, Gary, for 20 minutes. And man, was that ever an opportunity. Then I had to leave a little bit early to catch that plane, and one of my fellow students who taped it and was sending me the tape recording said, Bob, listen to the tape recording. He does a shout out about you after you left. I'm like, oh yeah. So the world-renowned scholar did a little shout out for Pastor Bob after, he said, well, Bob was talking earlier this week, and anyway. So I was really excited about that. But nonetheless, what I'm saying here is this. I'm saying that you've got Christian people being taught. Great was the fall of their life. It doesn't have to be that way. So you need to hear, number one, how to do it right, build on the right rock. And number two, next slide, you need to know the flip side of that. You need to know that the foolish person, the idiot, you can put in whatever name's appropriate as you think, but the foolish person builds on the wrong foundation. In other words, to make it simple, he doesn't build on God's Word. He doesn't build on the Bible. He's just going through life. Hey, I'm just gonna shoot from the hip. Okay? I'm gonna shoot from the hip. It ain't gonna work. I'm gonna do it the way my dad and mom did it. If they didn't do it the Bible way, it ain't gonna work. I'm going to do it the way the experts on TV, the sociologists and the experts that we see on TV, I'm going to do it the way they. Nope. If it's not what God says, it's not going to work. And you know what? You say, well, I'll take my chances. Okay, teenagers, young people, you're looking at me today, look up here. Listen, You can try that, but everybody that's ever tried to do it not God's way, well, I'm not going to go to church after I graduate. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'll just do it my way. It'll come back and bite you so big. You know, I talk to our young people, and I bring them in my office. I say, hey, what are you going to be doing from the time you're 22 till you're 62? I don't know. Okay, let me tell you. The best way to go is if you're not going to be a welder or a plumber or an electrician or something where you can get a decent wage without going to college, then you need to go to college. Unless you want to live, let me ask you, do you want to live from the time you're 22 till the time you're 62, 40 years, paycheck to paycheck? You want to do that? Do you want to always have not enough money? You've got more bills than you've got money? And I try to explain, I try to pull in young people all the time and just bring that up. Okay, so I tell them, now I want you to start thinking, what do I want to do? Not go to college or go to college? Okay, if it's not go to college, then you need to figure out what trade. Look on the internet, you know, they can do phones with their eyes closed, right? They say, get on the iPad, get on the iPhone, and find out, what are the top paying jobs for people that don't go to college? And then look at those. 10 jobs. I wonder which one that would be the best for me. And I said, figure it out and go get trained for 2 years and do it. Same thing, you go to college, figure out something good. Don't go there and say, hey, I want to be a basket weaver. I want to take a BA in basket weaving. I want to take a BA in gym class or something, unless you're going to be like Noel and have an occupation that's bringing in capital because he's training future football players. That's different. Okay, he's got his wheels turning correctly back there. But I'm talking about people that are saying, hey, you know, I'm just going to do this or that, and they get lousy. You know, hey, listen, I don't mind you getting a degree in literature for a bachelor's if you're going to get a master's in literature and then a doctorate in literature so you can actually use that and go teach somebody, you know, and make a decent, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, just say, hey, I'm just going to study English literature, and then you get out and there's nothing you can do unless you get a job. I guess you can get a job as a teacher, but a lot of times they don't want to do that. Oh, I wouldn't want to be a teacher. So what I'm just saying is I pull them in and try to pull them together. Okay. So human ideas, everybody, human ideas, whatever their source, are a sandy foundation. A life built on that foundation cannot withstand the storms of life. It will collapse. Young people, listen to me. It will collapse. Your life will eventually, you turn away from God and His Word, your life will eventually collapse. You'll be a mess. You might be in jail. You might be on drugs. You might be an alcoholic. But your life will collapse somehow, some way, because you can't one-up God. You can't one-up His Word. Whatever God says, you build here, you'll have peace, security, strength. It will not collapse, but you build here, and Jesus says it will collapse, and great will be its fall. So you make your pick today. Teenagers, make your pick. You want this or do you want this? And if you say like I did when I was a teenager, I was saved when I was 18, and I said, I want this. You know what? I got saved when I was 18. Listen to me. I went to church for 2 weeks, 18 years old. I had hair down to here because I was in a rock band. It's the late 70s. All I knew was guitars and, you know, that kind of stuff, even though I was in Purdue and all that. And I realized I was training to be an engineer. But I'm just saying, my thing revolved around music. I was in church 2 weeks. Gary, it only took me 2 Sundays. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night. 4 sermons. It took me 4 sermons to say, obviously, God's way is the right way to go, and the devil's way is the stupid way. The world's way is the stupid way to go. Moms and dads, your kids, you got to get them somehow, some way. You better be putting God's Word in them, because suddenly those 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds are going to be 16-year-olds and 18-year-olds. It's too late. You waited way too long. You need to get them when they're young, get them understanding God's ways. So what I'm saying is, all I'm saying is Jesus said, if you build your house on sand, the storms are going to come just like they come on this person, but that house is going down, and it's not just going to lean. He says, great is the fall of it. It's not just a Texas thunderstorm in midsummer with winds of 30 miles an hour that make your antenna get crooked. The whole house comes down and gets swept away by the flood. It's a massive, massive collapse. And by the way, you that are older, I myself, 30-some years now, I've been doing God's kingdom work. I've seen both scenarios. I've seen kids like my children and others that grew up in this church, and they heard their mom and dad, they heard their pastor, and you know what? They're doing great things. There's teenagers all over the country, former teenagers. Now they're growing up, they're having kids. They're awesome. But you know what? There are kids that came to this church, and they're over in this group, and their lives are a total shambles. How do you know that, Pastor Bob? Oh, I just have this thing that's called Facebook, and they send posts to me that are full of vulgarities and full of evil. Can't believe it's coming out of their mouths, the same kids that were sitting over here, and you know, and they're already on their way to destruction and trouble. The foolish person's house is collapsing because the foolish person's collapse is the answer to the question, does my life matter? Does it count for something? Not if it doesn't, not if it is not lived to God's glory. Because Jesus said this, and Robert put Matthew 16 up there. Whoever desires to save his life, and we know this isn't about eternity, about salvation. Talk about saving your life. That's psyche, where we get psychology from in Greek, psyche, but it means life. You know, your psyche is your life, the way you think. Okay, so whoever desires to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Do you want to find true joy? Do you want to find true peace? Do you want to find true happiness? Do you want to find some measure of prosperity? I'm not like these TV preachers that get up and say, hey, listen, you give me $100 and God will send you $1,000. No. But I do say be generous because God loves a cheerful giver. God loves a hilarious giver. You get the idea. You know, I'm just saying that you can have this measure of peace and prosperity that, you're not going to be sitting there just, everything's collapsing, okay? Or if it does, God will be there and come to your rescue. Okay, so what do we take about this? Every form of human success, every form of human fame, if it's not based on Jesus' words, will ultimately collapse into a valueless ruin. Valueless, has no redeeming value. Mark it down. Do you want your life to have eternal value? Whoever does the will of God remains forever. It's a legacy that'll keep on keeping on for eternity. Or do you want to be a child of God whose earthly life collapses, and then you stand before the Lord at the judgment seat of Christ, and he says, I'm sorry, I wanted to give you 10 minas, but you messed around, and you don't get any. Here, take the 1 mina he has, give it to him that has 10. Now he's got 11. Wow. Okay, finally, number 3, just before Lord's Supper, only the words of Jesus. Third point, and we don't have to spend much time here because it's self-evident. Only the words of Jesus have the authoritative certainty that we need in order to construct a solidly based life. And this is what I told you about at the beginning. I was going to explain to you. Jesus ended these sayings. When he ended them, the people were astonished, for he taught them as one having authority and not as the scribes. You know what the scribes did when they taught the poor people in that day? Here's what they said. All right, I want to teach you the Bible. Okay, now, Rabbi such and such says about this verse, and Rabbi so-and-so says this about it, and Rabbi so-and-so says this about it, and Rabbi so-and-so says this about it. Okay, that's what all of them say about this verse. Okay, let's look at the next verse. Rabbi so-and-so says this about that verse, and Rabbi so-and-so says that about this. Okay, hey, listen, if you don't get to the point where you say, but I say unto you, okay, those guys have messed up. You know what Jesus did? Jesus didn't quote rabbis and just leave it at that. Jesus said, you've heard that it was said, but I say unto you. You have heard that it was said, and he tells them something. You've heard people say it, this is thus and such, but I say unto you. That's authority. That's saying, listen, this is coming from the Most High God. I say unto you. Whatever I say is what my Father has said, Jesus said. Okay? So you're getting it from God Almighty. He's the Son of God who speaks with the authority of God. And by the way, he continues to do that to this day. Okay, conclusion. I want to put up a building up here. This is City Corp. Isn't that a beautiful piece of architecture? Wow. Over on the right, it's in New York. Let me see, do I have how many stories it is? I don't think so. But anyway, it's pretty tall. It's probably, looks like to me, with that big base on it, the big peg leg base there, it's probably like 40 stories or something like that. But anyway, it's a big, huge building, and boy, look at that architecture. The guy's name that did it is right there after City Corp. And he designed it and everything, and that was built in 1977. At that time, it was the 7th tallest in the world. The 7th tallest in the world. And the guy's name, it's hard to pronounce. It's Le Messier. That's hard. It's a French name. Let's just call him Bill. We'll just call him Bill. That last name, Le Messier. Okay, I don't do that. Now, I have to do that before I get out of this doctorate. I have to take German and French. Hallelujah. Okay, no, I'm not hallelujah in that. But anyway, okay, so Bill, this architect, was elected into the National Academy of Engineering shortly after it happened. He got honors for this building, and he should have. It's a masterpiece. 1 year after it opens, he comes to a frightening realization. It was flawed. Joints that should have been welded, that's what I did for a living when I was in college, should have been welded, they were bolted. They were bolted. And guess what bolts like to do? They like to snap. And especially when you have 60-mile-an-hour winds and the building's doing this, if it's welded, man, you got steel fused to steel. But when you have bolts, there's a lot of friction and a lot of stress, and they pop. And he realized, oh my goodness, it's a year old. Do I say anything or not? If I say anything, I'll get sued, I'll lose every dollar to my name, and my name will go down in the books as a total waste of human flesh, a failure. He had a decision to make. But you know what the architect did? He knew what he had to do. It took 3 months to fix the problem. He said, people's lives are at stake. It took 3 months to fix the problem. It cost millions of dollars. But his career and his reputation were not destroyed, but enhanced. One engineer commended him for being a man who had the courage to say, and this is the next slide here, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Yeah, you'll see it. He had the courage to say, I got a problem. I made a problem. Let's fix the problem. So just before, in fact, I'm going to have our men come down and to share the Lord's Supper. I'm going to have you come down as I finish this here. Come on down, everybody, all the men. Let's make an application here. You got a problem? You made the problem? Do you have the courage to say, let's fix the problem? What is it in your life? For instance, maybe your problem today is this. Maybe your problem is that you have no contact with God's Word. Or if you do, it's sort of like this. You open your Bible in the morning and you read John 11:35. Jesus wept. Okay, you close your Bible and say, okay, I had my devotions today. I read the Bible. Jesus wept. One verse, shortest verse in the New Testament. In English. Close the Bible. Okay, you got a problem. Now, are you going to be like the heart attack people? 90%? Yeah, I like my life the way it is. No, we need to fix the problem. You know what I mean? We need to do something here. We need to fix it. And so here's what I would just call you to do. And I realize that many, the vast majority of you probably are building your life on the rock of God's word. But there's some of you that aren't. There's some of you that the world, the flesh, the devil, or as Jesus put it, the cares of this life, the deceitfulness of riches, and other things entering in choke the word. They choke the word out. Too busy, too greedy, too this or that. In God's word, you don't get it. Hey, listen, I'm busier than a one-arm paper hanger in a windstorm. But you know what? I don't let that keep me. This morning I got up early, okay, so I could walk and fellowship with God. And then later today I'll open my Bible. I've been really enjoying the Holman Christian Standard Bible. It's really awesome. Been enjoying reading it. Lauren's reading the same one right now, in fact. So I read it. I listen to the Bible when I'm shaving, getting ready in the morning. So I'm listening. While I'm taking a shower, I got one of these portable little Bluetooth jobbers, and I put it right in the shower with me, and it's blaring out the Bible. I wake my daughter up all the time. She's over there sleeping, and like 50 feet away, she hears God's. It's coming through the vents. And it says in the Bible, and like it's coming through the vents, and she's waking up. I'm waking her up, But anyway, thankfully she sleeps pretty much like a rock. But all of that to say is, you know what? Maybe you need to get God's word back in your life. You know what? If you have an iPhone, if you have a Samsung, you can get it on there for free. The guy will read it to you. I do that. I have it on in my car. I'm constantly listening to messages, sermons, things. Why? Because more of you. That's what I need, is more of you. That's old song. I need more of God, more of His Word. I'm super busy, but you know what? You can't let those things crowd out. Okay? You can't let that crowd out God and His Word. You connecting. Okay, that's number one. Number two, we already talked about building on the right foundation. Now let's go over here. James chapter 1. You don't just hear the word. You got to, number two, you got to do the word. You got to do it. You got to live it. And so let me ask you this. Have you been saying things that you would never want somebody to say about you? Or have you been thinking things that you would never want anybody to think about you or to think in that way about you? Or have you been acting things out? Have you been behaving in a certain way that you say, well, here, I don't mind slapping somebody around, or I don't mind pushing somebody around, or I don't mind bullying somebody, or I don't mind gossiping about this person, but you know what? I'd never want that to happen to me. No way. Oh, yeah? It's going to happen to you. It's going to come back and get you, because God said whatever you sow is what you're going to reap. So first of all, it might be just that you have no significant contact with the Bible, then maybe when you come to church every 9th Sunday, okay, or something like that. But you know what I'm saying? Maybe you just don't have heart. Or number two, maybe you actually are hearing the word. You're coming to church every week, but it kind of like goes in one ear and out the other, okay? So we're human. We're crooked sticks, everybody, and God only has crooked sticks to use. But the bottom line is, you don't have to stay here and be the most crooked stick in the bag. You don't have to be, you know what? You can kind of start getting straightened out a little bit. I've done that the last 40 years since I've gotten saved. God's kind of kept straightening the stick out little by little. I'm still crooked, and I never will be anything other than that until I see Jesus. But bless God, by His help, I'm going to do more and more to get the sin out and get Jesus in that I could do. Okay? All right, so that's the application. I mean, I could stand up here for an hour and give more applications, but I just think we need to have a revival in our own lives. The church will get revived when we get revived. The church will get more people when we're witnessing to more people. The church will get stronger when our life group leaders and the leaders of the church and everybody, when we're all witnessing and bringing people in and inviting and doing all those things, okay? So we need all of that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and transition there.